So the case of Abrego Garcia continues to reverberate. The administration is trying to produce as much evidence as possible to suggest that he is a really bad guy and should be deported. And you know what? Maybe he is. J.D. Vance has come out and said, how dare you defend this guy, right? How can anybody defend this guy? He's a criminal. Isn't that the point of due process? We're all innocent until proven guilty, and we're supposed to face an objective process before they decide to do whatever they decide, or certainly before they put us in a high security, horrific jail in El Salvador. I'm trying to look for this. J.D. Vance had this comment that was just outrageous. Yeah, I don't think I saved it. Too bad. All right. Anyway, so they came up with something today arguing, and they provided evidence. So it looks like it was that his wife accused him of violence against her. They're now reasserting with more confidence that he was a member of M13. But the reality is none of that matters. The administration, admitted that they deported him to a high security jail in El Salvador, not just a regular deportation, by accident. The courts have basically said, bring him back. The Supreme Court, by a vote of 9-0, said, facilitate his return. The administration is saying we can't do anything about it. Bukele doesn't want to return him. Bukele, the dictator of El Salvador, doesn't want to return him. We can't do anything. So we're not going to. The court in front of which this is in front of has issued, still kind of trying to get the administration to do something. In the meantime, the case has gone to the 4th District. That is the administration's inaction has led to this going in front of the 4th District Appellate Court, which today issued an opinion. And this is what the judge wrote. Now, this is a judge appointed by Reagan, so a Republican of the old school, I guess. It was a 3-panel, and this opinion was unanimously taken on, right? Approved. This is what the judge wrote. I mean, he wrote a long opinion, but this is, I think, a crucial couple of paragraphs. It is difficult in some cases to get to the very heart of the matter. But in this case, it's not hard at all. The government is asserting a right to stash away residents of this country in foreign prisons without the semblance of due process that is the foundation of our constitutional order. Further, it claims, in essence, that because it has rid itself of custody, that there is nothing that can be done. He goes on, this should be shocking, not only to judges, but to the intuitive sense of liberty that Americans, far removed from courthouses, still hold dear. I mean, that is pretty scathing. He's basically saying the government thinks it can stash people away and it's going to do nothing about it, even when it makes mistakes. And it's abandoned due process, which this court considers the foundation of our constitutional order. It's going to be interesting to see how Trump responds to this. I mean, this is a major decision that is I don't think we're yet at a constitutional crisis, but we're inching towards a constitutional crisis where the courts are basically being ignored by the Trump administration. Then we're not quite there yet. There's still some process to go through. There's still some bickering, partially because the Supreme Court was a little ambiguous when it said facilitate, but not effectuate. This might go back to the Supreme Court. It's going to be interesting. Now, just to give you a recap, remind you of what happened. Abrego Garcia, has a case. It's controversial. It's an immigration court, but the immigration court blocked his deportation. Right? Then, the Trump administration admitted that he was mistakenly picked up by ICE, and not just picked up by ICE, but sent to a jail in El Salvador. The Supreme Court ruled 9-0, everybody, including Thomas and Alito, that U.S. must facilitate his return. It was a mistake, and he's in jail in a foreign country, a pretty brutal one, when there's a court order in the United States barring his deportation. Now, ordinary deportations are relatively standard practice. I mean, under Biden, 241,000 people were deported every year. So it can be done pretty quickly. Some basic, simple due process. Establish you're illegally here, established that you can be deported, and they're deported. People are deported. But that's different, by the way. Deporting somebody to the country of origin is different than sending them to a high-security jail, potentially for the rest of their life, for no crime that anybody is accusing them of. Except, yes, illegal immigration, which is not exactly a crime that justifies life in prison, or shouldn't, certainly. So, if Abrego Garcia is brought back to the United States, the Trump administration could take him to deportation court and pretty quickly deport him. The court block on his deportation could be rescinded. But then he would be deported not to a high-security jail, which should be only an option, actually should never be an option, to send somebody to high-security jail outside the United States. But you could imagine it being an option for murderers, for very, very, very dangerous and violent criminals. So this is where we stand, right? Supreme Court also, in its 9-0 ruling, actually stated that anybody the Trump administration wants to remove as a so-called alien enemy, remember Trump is using this Enemies Act to deport people, every single one of them should get a habeas hearing to contest charges of gang membership. So they have to at least have an opportunity to defend themselves. It's called due process. Indeed, a Trump-appointed judge in Texas, based on the Supreme Court ruling, has ordered that the AEA deportations of Venezuelans to El Salvador cease pending a hearing. Now, again, these are not crazy left-wing judges. These are Republican judges. So it's crazy that people are defending this, and everybody's defending this. You go on Twitter, the right, MAGA, is vehemently defending this, and most aggressively of all, J.D. Vance is everywhere defending this. J.D. Vance is one scary, scary monster. He's a really, really, really bad guy. This should be pretty straightforward. You don't like Abrego Garcia, you want him out of the United States, okay, I get it. Use the processes that exist. You can't send him to high security jail. Now, the Trump administration is saying there's nothing we can do. He's in El Salvador. But the reality is that they haven't even asked for him to come. And indeed, they're paying the El Salvadorian government money to keep him there. A Democratic senator went down to El Salvador and met with the vice president of El Salvador. And the vice president told Van Hollen, the senator, that the reason he was holding Kilmer Abrego Garcia is because the Trump administration was paying them to do so. He also said that they had no evidence that Abrego Garcia is part of MS-13 or that he has committed any crimes. But the government, the U.S. government, is paying them to keep him there. They'll keep him there. They don't care about justice. They don't care about due process. It's El Salvador, after all. U.S. government is paying them to keep some people in jail. Cool. They'll do it. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see what the response of the administration is to this Fourth U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals ruling, whether this is now appealed, I guess, the Supreme Court, whether the Supreme Court will take it, given this ruling, or just accept this ruling. I mean, by all accounts, the 7-page ruling is an extraordinary condemnation of the administration, and is a warning of the dangers of the disappearance of due process under this administration. Yeah. So we will see what happens. We will see how this develops. I expect that at some point the administration will break. I doubt that this is the issue they want a constitutional crisis over. It might be, but I doubt it. It's red meat for MAGA, right? Here's a South American who's in the country illegally and who might be a wife beater and who might be, or might be a gang member. Yes, rally the country around putting him in a high security jail in El Salvador. They love this stuff. They have as much respect for individuals as they do for ants. Anyway, it is depressing. To top it all off, just to add to this, you remember Gorka? He worked in the first Trump administration, was one of the real MAGA tough guys. He is now Trump's counterterrorism czar. And he said today, I watched this, it's pretty nutty. He said today on Newsmax is a kind of a MAGA TV network. He said that anyone who's advocating for due process for Garcia is basically aiding and abetting a terrorist. And as somebody aiding and abetting a terrorist, they could be looking at federal charges. In other words, any of us who is speaking out in favor of Garcia's right to due process before being sent to a brutal jail in El Salvador is potentially aiding and abetting a terrorist. And if that's the case, the government could charge us. I mean, this is how free speech dies. This is really how free speech dies. You can't challenge the government. You can't call an injustice injustice anymore without them declaring you aiding and abetting a terrorist. Now, he's a nutcase, and I don't think what he says will go anyway. But the very fact that a government official is saying this, somebody very close to Trump, I don't know, as bad as Biden was, as bad as Kamala, as bad as the left is, can you think of anything like this that they said Maybe they wanted to put in jail people who are anti-woke. I don't know. I can't remember anything quite this egregious. Because you're defending somebody and demanding that he have due process, you're aiding and abetting a terrorist. Wow. That is some piece of work.